My ex-wife cheated on me, left with another man, and disappeared from my life for 4 years. Then last Tuesday, she showed up on my porch holding his little girl's hand. Not alone, my parents brought her. My mother had a casserole dish in her hands like this was a family dinner instead of an ambush. My father stood behind my ex-wife with his arms crossed, looking at me like I was the unreasonable one for not opening the door wider. Bethany said Owen was gone. She said she had nowhere to go. She said the little girl needed stability. My parents said I was a good man, and good men help. That was when I finally understood something. They did not want me to forgive her. They wanted me to make her problem convenient for them. So I said one word: no. Then I closed the door, changed the locks, and started cutting every one of them out of my life. My name is Caleb Warren. I was 32 when this happened. I work as a ceramic restoration specialist at a regional art museum. It is quiet, careful work. Most days, I sit under clean white light with tools small enough to disappear under your hand, piecing together fragments of old pottery, tiles, porcelain bowls, and things people thought were ruined until someone patient enough looked at the cracks properly. I like the work. I like the silence. I like that broken things do not pretend they are whole. A crack is a crack. A missing piece is a missing piece. Damage does not become less real because everyone in the room agrees not to talk about it. That lesson took me longer to apply to people. 4 years ago, my ex-wife Bethany cheated on me with a man named Owen. He worked at the physical therapy clinic where she had been going after a minor shoulder injury. The affair had been going on for months before I found out. When I did, she did not break down. She did not collapse into remorse. She did not beg. She stood in our kitchen and told me she needed to explore her feelings. That was the phrase. Explore her feelings. Like she was leaving for a yoga retreat instead of destroying a marriage. She moved out within a week. Owen came with his truck and helped her load boxes. I remember standing in the hallway watching her carry out the lamp we bought together on our first anniversary. She did not take the dog, said it would be too hard with her new apartment situation. She took half our savings, though. Apparently, that was not too hard. The divorce was not dramatic. Not legally, anyway. No children. No complicated property fight. No long courtroom war. Just paperwork, signatures, asset division, and the kind of emotional exhaustion that makes you feel like you are watching your own life through glass. The worst part was not even Bethany. The worst part was my parents. I expected support. Maybe not rage, maybe not some grand declaration that Bethany was dead to them. But something, a clear line. A basic understanding that their son had been betrayed. Instead, my mother said, "Marriage is complicated." My father said, "These things happen." Then he added, and I will never forget this: "Maybe you should think about what drove her to that." What drove her to that? As if cheating was a location I had somehow pointed her toward. When Bethany was packing her boxes into Owen's truck, my father told me I should fight for her. She was literally leaving me for another man. And my father thought the problem was that I was not fighting hard enough to keep her. My mother cried. But not for me exactly. She cried because everything was messy. Because divorce made holidays awkward. Because people would ask questions at church. Because the image of her happily married son had been broken, and broken images embarrass people who care too much about appearances. After the divorce, my parents stayed in touch with Bethany. Birthday cards, occasional lunches. My mother would mention it casually, like, "Oh, I ran into Bethany at the grocery store. She seems good." As if that was normal. As if I was supposed to nod and say, "Great. Glad the woman who cheated on me is doing well." I did not explode. I did not make a scene. I just pulled back. At first, it was gradual. Shorter phone calls. Fewer visits. Holidays only. Surface-level conversations. If my mother brought up Bethany, I changed the subject. If my father gave me advice about forgiveness, I ended the call. Over time, I built a life that was mine. A small 1950s bungalow on a quiet street. 2 bedrooms. Old hardwood floors. A front porch just big enough for a chair and a small table. A detached garage that I turned into a workshop. I renovated the house myself. Painted the walls. Repaired the cabinets. Replaced the cracked kitchen tile. Rebuilt the back steps. I liked making things useful again. Mornings became coffee on the porch. Evenings became furniture restoration projects in the garage. Weekends were hiking, reading, estate sales, or quiet dinners with my dog, Milo, who had adjusted to single life much faster than I had. There was no chaos. No shouting, no emotional ambushes. No one telling me betrayal was complicated. Just peace. And peace, once you have had your life broken open, is not boring. It is sacred. That Tuesday evening started like any other. I was in the garage sanding down a vintage chair I had picked up at an estate sale. Jazz was playing low on the radio. The garage door was halfway open. The air smelled like wood dust and summer rain. I remember thinking, right before everything happened, That I was happy. Not excited, not thrilled. Just quietly happy. Then I heard a car door slam. Voices. I turned off the sander and walked to the front of the house. Bethany stood on my porch. For a few seconds, my mind refused to make sense of her being there. She looked different. Smaller somehow. Worn down. Her hair was longer, pulled back in a messy ponytail. No makeup. Red eyes. The carefully exhausted look of someone who had practiced being pitied. She was holding the hand of a little girl. Maybe 3 years old. Dark curly hair. Brown eyes. A pink jacket with a cartoon rabbit on it. The child looked nothing like me. Then I saw the second car parked at the curb. My parents' silver sedan. My mother was already walking up my driveway with a casserole dish in her hands. That was when I knew this was not random. "Sweetheart." My mother called, smiling like this was a normal visit. "We know this is unexpected, but just hear her out." I stood in my doorway. Did not invite them in. Did not step aside. Just waited. Bethany took a breath. "Caleb," she said softly. "I know I don't deserve to be here. Good start, at least." Then she kept talking. Owen was gone. Things had not worked out. She had made mistakes. She had lost her job 2 months earlier. She was behind on rent. The little girl needed stability. Her name was Lily. Bethany said that part like I was supposed to melt. Like naming the child would make her my responsibility. My father stepped up beside her. "She came to us first," he said. "Asked if we thought you'd be willing to talk." That was not better. That meant they had discussed it before coming to my house. They had planned this. They had decided the correct solution to Bethany's life collapsing was to bring her to my front door. My mother moved closer, still holding that ridiculous casserole. "She's going through a hard time," Mom said. "And that little girl needs stability. You have this house. You're doing well. You could help." I looked at all 3 adults. Really looked. Bethany with her carefully sad expression. My mother with that expectant smile, already assuming I would eventually soften. My father, impatient, arms crossed, like I was wasting everyone's time by not immediately agreeing. And the truth clicked into place. This was not about forgiveness. This was not about second chances. This was not about doing the right thing. This was about convenience. My parents did not want to take Bethany in. They did not want to help her with rent. They did not want her and a toddler in their guest room. They wanted me to absorb the problem so they could feel like generous, forgiving people without actually paying the cost. They had done this before. 4 years ago, when Bethany left, they tried to push me to fight for the marriage because her leaving was inconvenient for them. It made the family look messy. It made holidays uncomfortable. It forced them to acknowledge betrayal. They did not care that she had hurt me. They cared that my pain disrupted their preferred version of reality. Now she was back, and they wanted me to fix the disruption again. I looked at Bethany. "We were good once," she said. "Remember?" I did remember. That was the problem. I remembered everything. I remembered her leaving. I remembered Owen loading boxes into his truck. I remembered my father telling me to fight for her while she chose another man right in front of me. I remembered my mother sending Bethany birthday cards. I remembered rebuilding my life one quiet day at a time. "No," I said. My mother blinked. Bethany's mouth opened slightly. My father frowned. I said it again, clearer. "No. Leave now." My mother's smile collapsed. "Caleb." I closed the door. Locked it, then I stood in the hallway with my back against the wood. My heart was pounding, but my hands were steady. That was the strange part. Through the door, I could hear them. My mother's voice first. He didn't even let us explain. My father, lower and angrier. Bethany crying, the little girl asking something I could not make out. I did not move, did not open the door. Did not look through the window. 10 minutes. That was how long they stayed. 10 minutes of voices rising and falling. 10 minutes of car doors opening and closing. 10 minutes of my mother trying one more time to knock and my father saying something sharp. Then engines started. Then silence. I walked to the kitchen, poured a glass of water, and sat at the table. Still no rage. Still no guilt. Just clarity. Like I had been looking at something blurry for 4 years and it finally snapped into focus. I thought about every casual mention of Bethany over coffee. Every time my father told me to let go of the past. Every holiday where everyone carefully avoided naming what she had done. They had never taken my side. Not once. They had just waited for the mess to disappear. And now they wanted me to become the solution. Take Bethany in. Give her child stability. Make my parents feel good about themselves. Make Bethany's choices easier. No. I opened my laptop and created a new document. I titled it, Actions. Then I started typing. Change locks. Install security cameras. Block parents. Block Bethany. Block extended family if necessary. Email lawyer. Document all contact attempts. Update emergency contacts. Remove parents. Update will. Remove parents from beneficiaries. I stared at the list. This was not revenge. This was protection. There is a difference. Around 9 that night, my phone rang. Mom. I watched it buzz on the table. Voicemail. 30 seconds later, Dad called. Voicemail. Then a text from Mom. We need to talk about this like adults. You can't just shut us out. I read it. Did not respond. I opened my phone settings and blocked both numbers. 5 minutes later, another text came through. My aunt. Your mother called me crying. What happened? Call me. Blocked. Then an unknown number. This is cruel. That little girl needs help. You're being selfish. My mother using someone else's phone. I took a screenshot. Created a folder on my laptop titled Documentation. Saved it. Blocked the number. That was when I understood they were not going to accept no. They were going to push and push, finding new ways around my boundaries because in their minds, I was the unreasonable one. Not Bethany for cheating. Not them for enabling her. Me. Because I refused to fix a mess I did not create. Fine. Let them push. I would document every attempt. I went to bed around 11 and slept better than I had in months. The next morning, I was drinking coffee at my kitchen table when headlights pulled up outside. 6:35 a.m. My parents' car. I watched through the window as they got out. My father walked to the porch first and knocked. Firm, deliberate knocks. The kind that said, "We need to talk right now." I stayed in the kitchen. My mother came up beside him and pressed her hands against the front window, trying to see inside. I was just out of her line of sight. If I moved, she would see me. So I stayed perfectly still. More knocking. My father tried the doorknob. Still locked, obviously. "Come on," he said through the glass. "We know you're in there." I sipped my coffee. Said nothing. They stood there for 5 minutes. 5 full minutes of knocking, calling out, and trying to look through windows. Then my father threw up his hands, said something sharp to my mother, and they walked back to the car. I watched them drive away. Then I picked up my phone and called a locksmith. "How soon can you get here?" I asked. "I can be there by 10. Perfect." After that, I ordered a security camera system with live feed and cloud storage. Front porch. Back door. Driveway. Garage. By the time I left for work, I had already blocked 6 more numbers. Cousins. Family friends. People I had not spoken to in years, suddenly very concerned about my well-being. At lunch, I sat in my car in the museum parking lot and emailed the lawyer who had handled my divorce. Need consultation. Ex-wife and parents attempting unwanted contact after I refused to help her. Need cease and desist letters drafted. Available to meet this week. He responded within an hour. Can meet Friday morning at 9. Document everything. Screenshots, recordings, anything. I smiled. Already ahead of him. The next few days were strangely calm. At work, I restored part of an 18th century serving platter. White ceramic, blue hand-painted detail, hairline fracture running through the rim. The damage was delicate, but honest. It did not pretend to be anything else. My phone stayed on silent. By Friday morning, my documentation folder had 23 screenshots. Texts, missed call logs. Voicemails transcribed by my phone. Photos of my parents at the door. Everything saved and backed up. At 9, I walked into my lawyer's office with the folder printed and organized chronologically. He looked through it and let out a low whistle. "You don't mess around." "No." I said. "I don't." We spent an hour going over everything. He confirmed what I already knew. I had no legal obligation to help Bethany. My parents had no right to access me. Bethany had no right to show up at my home. He drafted cease and desist letters to all 3. No contact. No showing up at my residence. No showing up at my workplace. No third-party contact. Violations could lead to restraining orders or trespassing charges. The letters went out by certified mail Monday. That weekend was quiet. I worked in my garage and finished the chair I had been sanding the night Bethany showed up. Saturday afternoon, my new front porch camera sent a motion alert. I opened the app. My parents' car was in my driveway. They knocked. Waited. Knocked again. I was at the hardware store buying sandpaper, watching the whole thing on my phone. After 4 minutes, they left. They did not see the camera. Monday evening, while I was cooking dinner, my phone started buzzing. The cease and desist letters had been delivered. Unknown number. Another. 7 calls in 10 minutes. I watched the notifications appear and disappear. Did not answer a single one. I plated my dinner, sat at my kitchen table, and ate in complete silence. Week 2 started quieter. 3 unknown calls Tuesday. 1 Wednesday. None Thursday. At lunch on Friday, I got a text from my cousin Iris, the only relative I actually liked. Iris was my age, worked as a physical therapist, and had always been considered the family black sheep because she got divorced and moved 3 states away instead of staying close enough for everyone to monitor. "Hey. Heard there was family drama. You okay? I replied, I'm fine. Set some boundaries. Some people didn't take it well. Her response came immediately. Good for you. Your parents called my mom complaining. Whole family's talking about it. Let them talk, I wrote. Doesn't change anything. That's the spirit. If you need an alibi or a character witness, I'm your girl. I smiled. At least one person understood. Monday of week 3 shattered any illusion that the cease and desist letters had solved everything. I was eating lunch in my car when museum security called. Hey, Maurice said. He was a retired cop and the best kind of security guard because he took nothing personally and noticed everything. We've got someone in the lobby asking for you. Says she's your ex-wife. Should we let her up? My jaw tightened. No, she is not authorized. If she does not leave, call the police. Copy that. 10 minutes later, he called back. She left. Didn't make a scene. Just looked sad and walked out. Thanks, Maurice. Can you make a note in the system? If she shows up again, don't call me first. Just call the police. Already done. After work, I went to HR and explained the situation calmly. My ex-spouse may attempt unauthorized contact. She showed up today. Security handled it, but I want it on record that she is not welcome here and should not be given access to me. The HR representative, Gloria, nodded seriously. We'll add her to the restricted visitors list. If she shows up again, security will handle it. You shouldn't have to deal with this at work. That sentence meant more than she knew. Because my own family had spent weeks telling me I should deal with it everywhere. At home. At work. At holidays. In my own life. Wednesday, a card arrived in my mailbox. My mother's handwriting. Inside was a floral Hallmark card. Her note said my father had experienced heart palpitations the previous week. He was fine now, but it reminded them that life was short and family was important. I read it once. No emotion. If it had been serious, they would have called 911, not used it as leverage in a greeting card. I tore it in half and threw it in the trash. Friday evening, Bethany's mother approached me in the museum parking lot. Her name was Patricia. I had not seen her since the divorce. She came out from between two cars wearing a nervous smile. Caleb? I just want to talk to you. Parent to parent. I'm not a parent, I said. That stopped her. I have nothing to discuss with you. Do not contact me again. I got into my car and locked the doors. She stood there stunned as I backed out and drove away. By the time I got home, I knew what came next. I emailed my lawyer. Bethany's mother approached me in my workplace parking lot today. Parents sent manipulative card about health scare. Bethany showed up at workplace Monday. They are still attempting contact. What are my options? His response came 20 minutes later. That's harassment. We can escalate to restraining orders. Come in Monday morning. I slept fine that night. No anxiety. No guilt. Just the knowledge that I was doing exactly what needed to be done. Saturday morning, Iris called. Your mom is calling everyone, she said. She's saying you threatened her. That you're having some kind of breakdown. They're planning an intervention tomorrow at your aunt's house. I almost laughed. An intervention. Because apparently refusing to house your cheating ex-wife and her affair partner's child was a medical emergency now. When? I asked. 2. I'm not going. Good. Sunday at 2, I was in my garage refinishing a vintage dresser. My phone stayed on the workbench, face up. Iris sent updates. They're still waiting. Your mom is crying. Then. Your dad is angry. Keep saying you'll come around. Then. I told them you weren't coming. They didn't believe me. I kept sanding. At 4. I think they're finally realizing you're serious. At 5. Everyone's leaving now. Your mom is telling people you've changed. I wiped down the dresser and applied the first coat of stain. They wanted a room full of pressure. I gave them an empty chair. Monday morning, there was an envelope taped to my front door. My camera showed my mother arriving at 6:17 a.m., walking quickly to the porch, taping it up, and leaving in under a minute. I did not open it. I drove straight to my lawyer's office and waited in the parking lot until he arrived. He opened the envelope. It's your mother, he said, begging you to reconsider. Says your father's health is declining from stress. Says you're tearing the family apart. Can we file now? Yes. That same day, my mother called my workplace. My boss, Raymond, came into my restoration room with a careful expression. Got a weird call this morning, he said. Woman claiming to be your mother. Said you were having a mental health crisis and asked if we'd noticed concerning behavior. I set down my tools. What did you say? I told her we don't discuss employees with non-emergency contacts and hung up. Then he asked, you okay? I told him the short version. I cut off some toxic family members. They are trying to get around boundaries by contacting my workplace. I have a lawyer involved. There is nothing wrong with me. Raymond nodded. I've seen this before. People get desperate when they lose access. If anyone else calls, we won't engage. If they show up, security handles it. By Friday, the temporary restraining orders were approved. My parents and Bethany were served Saturday. Sunday morning, I sat on my porch with coffee, visible from the street. At 9:50, my parents' car drove by. They slowed down. I made direct eye contact with my mother through the passenger window. She looked like she had aged 5 years in 3 weeks. My father's hands gripped the steering wheel so tightly his knuckles were white. They did not stop. The order worked. I took a sip of coffee and watched them disappear around the corner. The next Tuesday, they tried one last time. At work. Security called. Your parents are in the lobby, Maurice said. They're insisting it's a family emergency. There is a restraining order, I said. Call the police. I already did. When I came downstairs, 2 officers were there. My mother was crying. My father was red-faced and arguing. My mother saw me. Please, she called out. Your grandmother fell. She's in the hospital. She's asking for you. I looked at the nearest officer. May I speak with you privately? We stepped aside. My grandmother died 6 years ago, I said. This is a fabrication. They are violating a court order. The officer looked back at my parents. Then he nodded. They were ordered to leave. My mother looked back once as she walked out. I did not look away. I gave a statement, signed paperwork, and sent everything to my lawyer. He replied within the hour. This helps our case significantly. Bethany violated the order 3 days later at a grocery store. She approached me in the produce section, asking for 2 minutes. I pulled out my phone and started recording. You are violating a restraining order, I said clearly. Leave now or I am calling the police. People stared. She left. The video became another exhibit. At the court hearing, my parents and Bethany all showed up. My father tried to argue that I was having a mental health crisis. The judge asked for documentation. Medical records. Evaluations. Anything. My father had nothing. He said, he cut off his entire family. That's not normal behavior. The judge looked at him and said, not liking one's family is not a mental illness. I will remember that line forever. Bethany tried to say she only wanted to apologize. The judge asked why she approached me after being served legal notice not to contact me. Bethany had no answer. Permanent restraining orders were granted for all 3. 3 years. No direct contact. No indirect contact. No third-party messages. Violations would result in arrest. The judge looked at my parents and said, your son is an adult. He made his boundaries clear. You do not get to override those boundaries because you disagree with them. I walked out of the courtroom without looking back. My lawyer clapped me once on the shoulder outside. That's it, he said. You're done. And he was right. 3 months later, I am sitting on my back deck on a Saturday morning, coffee in hand, sun coming up over the neighbor's fence. No calls. No drive-bys. No surprise visits. No casserole dishes on my porch. Iris texted me last week. Your mom stopped calling my mom. I think she finally gave up. Good, I replied. Bethany moved 2 hours away, then apparently back in with her parents after another relationship fell apart. I do not feel satisfaction hearing that. I do not feel vindicated. I feel nothing. The healthy kind of nothing. Work is good. I finished restoring a 15th century Persian tile last week, and the museum director said it was some of my best work. I am teaching a community workshop next month on furniture restoration. 12 people signed up. Last weekend, I went camping with Theo, my friend from college. We hiked 8 miles, caught fish, cooked them over a fire, and did not talk about family drama once. It was perfect. I updated my emergency contacts. Removed my parents, added Theo and Iris. Updated my will. Everything goes to charity now. Arts education and a domestic violence shelter. Not out of spite. They are just not my family anymore. Family is not blood. Family is who shows up, respects you, and does not treat your boundaries like suggestions. Yesterday, I was leaving work when I saw someone who looked like my mother from behind. Same hair. Same build. For 1 second, my chest tightened. Then she turned around. Different person entirely, and I realized something. I was not afraid. I was cautious. There is a difference. It is the same way you are careful around fire after you have been burned. That is not weakness. That is learning. This morning, I woke up and realized I had slept through the night without waking once. No anger, no anxiety. No what-ifs. Just peace. The kind of peace that comes from knowing you chose yourself when everyone else wanted you to choose their comfort. I spent 4 years thinking maybe something was wrong with me because I could not move on the way my parents wanted. But I had moved on. I just moved on in a direction they did not approve of. They wanted me to absorb the inconvenience. Smooth over the mess. Open the door. Take in Bethany. Make them feel kind without requiring them to do anything difficult. I finally said no. Not with screaming. Not with revenge. Not with some grand speech. Just no. Then locks. Then cameras. Then paperwork. Then court. People call that cold. I call it self-respect. I finish my coffee and check my phone. Theo texted about another camping trip next weekend. Different trail this time. I'm in. I type back. I have a life now. A peaceful one. Built on my own terms. No one is coming to my door with problems that are not mine to solve. No one is guilting me into situations I do not want. My boundaries are intact. My peace is protected. 4 years ago, Bethany walked out, and my parents stayed neutral. 3 months ago, when she came back, I made my choice. I chose myself. And I would do it again every single time. I stand up, stretch, and walk back inside my small, quiet, perfectly peaceful house. The door closes behind me with a solid click, and I smile because I finally understand. Saying no to people who treat you like a convenience is not cruelty. It is strength. And I am stronger than I have ever been. Thank you so much for watching until the end. If you really like our videos, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Have a great day.